All right, let's get into it. Today we're diving deep into the cold, silent darkness of space to talk about one of the all-time greats in sci-fi horror, the Dead Space franchise. So think about that for a second. This is the question that Dead Space throws right at you. You're not some super soldier, you're an engineer. And the nightmares you're up against? Well, let's just say a simple headshot isn't going to cut it. It's that core concept, surviving with your wits and your tools, not just a bunch of guns, that makes this whole thing so brilliant.
So, where did a landmark series like this even come from? Well, let me tell you, it was no happy accident. This thing was engineered from the ground up to be the most terrifying experience you could possibly have in deep space.
The backstory here is actually really cool. Back in 2008, you had creator Glenn Schofield and the team over at Visceral Games. They saw the massive success of games like Resident Evil 4 and thought, we can push this genre even further. Their stated goal was simple, but wow, was it ambitious. Make the most terrifying game possible. And they didn't just stop with one game. They built an entire universe around it, with movies, comics, the whole shebang.
Okay, so to really get Dead Space, you have to understand its world. And its lore is this perfect storm of three key ingredients that come together to create something truly, uniquely horrifying.
First up, at the center of everything, are the markers. These alien artifacts are the trigger for all the chaos. On the one hand, they promise a solution to all of humanity's energy problems. But the catch? Their signal drives people completely insane, and, oh yeah, it reanimates the dead. It's the ultimate deal with the devil, but on a cosmic scale.
And to make things a million times more complicated, there's unitology. See, this isn't just a monster problem, it's a human problem. You have this massive, fanatical religion that literally worships the markers. They believe that this horrific transformation is actually a divine rebirth, a way to become whole. So while you're trying to run away from the nightmare, these guys are running straight towards it.
And that, of course, brings us to the necromorphs. Let me be clear. These are not your typical zombies, not even close. The marker signal doesn't just wake up a dead body, it rebuilds it. It shatters bones, twists flesh, and grows new blades where arms used to be. They are walking, screaming abominations, driven by one simple goal: make more corpses to turn into more necromorphs.
So, how in the world are you supposed to fight something like that? Well, this is where Dead Space threw the old survival horror rulebook out the window and created its most revolutionary mechanic.
In almost every other shooter you've ever played, what's the first thing you learn? Aim for the head. It's just instinct. Well, in Dead Space, that instinct will get you killed. A headshot might just make a necromorph angrier. You have to literally tear them apart, limb from limb. This whole system, called strategic dismemberment, forces you to think tactically when all you want to do is panic.
And what's so smart about it is that it's perfectly explained by the story. Necromorphs don't need a brain or a heart because they're basically puppets controlled by the marker's signal. So logically, the only way to stop them from coming at you is to, well, cut off the parts they're using to come at you. It makes perfect, horrifying sense.
This theme of being an engineer, not a soldier, extends to everything. Your weapons aren't assault rifles. They're repurposed power tools, plasma cutters, saw blades, that kind of thing. Even the user interface is designed to suck you in. There's no health bar in the corner of your screen. No, your health and ammo are displayed right on your character's suit. It's called a diegetic UI, and it means you can never, ever look away.
And you just can't talk about Dead Space without mentioning the iconic plasma cutter. It's your first weapon, and it perfectly sums up the game's entire philosophy. It's just a tool. But as critics from places like Edge magazine and Kotaku pointed out, its powerful sound makes every single shot feel deliberate and meaningful. It's the perfect weapon for an ordinary guy forced to survive.
Speaking of the engineer, let's talk about the man at the center of this storm, Isaac Clarke. His story is not a tale of heroism. It's about trauma, survival, and watching a man's sanity get ripped to shreds. Isaac is the perfect protagonist for this nightmare. He's just a systems engineer who's good at fixing things. The only reason he's on this mission is because he's looking for his girlfriend, Nicole. He's not there to be a hero. He's just a regular guy, and his vulnerability is our vulnerability, which makes his journey all the more terrifying.
And his transformation across the trilogy is just brutal. In the first game, he's silent, a stand-in for the player. By Dead Space 2, the trauma has given him a voice, but his mind is completely fractured. He's fighting not just monsters, but his own crippling hallucinations. And in Dead Space 3, he's this weary, hardened veteran who gets dragged back in to end the threat once and for all. It's just a tragic, incredible character arc.
Okay, let's pull back from the game's lore for a second and talk about the real-world story of the franchise itself, because, honestly, it's almost as dramatic as Isaac's story, complete with its own death and resurrection.
You can see the whole drama play out right here in the review scores. The first 2 games, huge acclaim, just knocking it out of the park. Then Dead Space 3 comes along, and you see that noticeable dip. It leaned a bit more into action, and that didn't sit right with everyone. Then, after a decade of silence, bam! The 2023 remake comes roaring back, matching the original's legendary score. But here's the brutal lesson of the games industry. Critical acclaim doesn't always pay the bills. The original games cost a fortune to make and market, and even though they sold millions of copies, they apparently didn't hit the massive sales targets the publisher had set for them.
That tough reality led to this. 2017. The year Visceral Games, the studio that created Dead Space, was shut down. And for years, that was it. It really seemed like the franchise was over. The signal had gone silent.
But then, in 2023, Motive Studio did the impossible. They didn't just remaster the original, they rebuilt it from scratch. They kept everything that made it a horror classic while modernizing it for today's audience. And it was a massive success. It proved that people were still starving for true, smart survival horror.
Which leaves us with one final, tantalizing question. The remake was a new beginning, a successful reanimation of a beloved franchise. It makes you wonder, what new horrors are waiting for us out there, now that the Marker's signal is broadcasting once again?